Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Here.
Trustee Dempsey.
Present.
Clerk Vorba here. Trustee Dorshevitz is excused. Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item B is the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight will be led by Aaron Sprague, Executive Director of WTUA.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Aaron. Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Oh, no, item C, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, minus item number 5.
The motion has been made to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Any comments or questions from the board?
Couple things. I did the bills. Once again, we had a Napa sneak in there where the majority was a creeper with a headrest, was $84. AutoZone had it 60% cheaper, but that's okay. Just so you know, whoever's going to Napa, they just got bought by Serial City Auto Parts. So if whoever continues to go to Napa sees a different sign, it'll be Serial City Auto Parts.
But that's a franchise.
Yes.
So the franchise has been bought?
Yep. Second thing I've got is, once again, mutual aid. You knew that was coming. Received 9, gave 21. 3 of the mutual aids we received were on the same fire. But congratulations, we transported 67% of patients this month, which is probably a high for us. 33% for us and 67 for HVA. So it's a good number for us. And the other piece I had is looking at the mutual aid given. I thought it was really interesting that we went to 1150 South Canton Center, which is right next to the Canton Fire Department. So I thought that was an interesting mutual aid that we gave.
Yeah, that is the jail for Canton Township. That's the address for the jail, I believe. So we responded there. As far as you may look at the transports, I took your advice and I only did a report that showed where patients that went to the hospital went, as opposed to all patients and patients who didn't go at all, which that shows the change in percentages. And it's a little bit more accurate that way.
Great job. Is there anything, I mean, we gave Canton 12 mutual aids and we got 1. And this seems to be a trend. Is there anything, I don't know, if there's anything we can
Historically, Canton gave us a lot more than we gave them. This is, this year we're giving them a lot more. I do know, after speaking with Canton's chief several times, they had quite a lot of employees out on family medical leave for childbirths and stuff. So their staff is down at the moment. Hopefully they'll be coming back to work soon. I also know that they hired additional staff through a SAFER grant like us, and they got them, recently they hired a few more. I don't know exactly where they are in their hiring process, but they're, like us, trying to find people in an environment where there's not a lot of people out there.
Is it true we had to use a ladder truck from Northville Township this?
Yes, that's true. There was a lightning strike in a condo complex over, I believe it was on Friday, and we needed a ladder truck to get up on the roof. The ladders we currently have, we would not have been able to efficiently get up there, so we needed Northville Township's ladder truck to get up there to assess the damage of the lightning strike.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And how long did it take? How long did it take the ladder truck to get there from Northville?
I don't know. I'll have to look that up for you.
Also, I noticed in a document that came from Canton Township, I noticed that Canton gives a lot of mutual aid to Westland. Now, is there a corresponding issue there, are they going to give mutual aid to Canton, and then they're short, and then we're backfilling them?
Round robin?
Yes.
That is happening all over the place. That, you could say that that's happening with Canton, Westland, and us. It's also happening with Redford, Livonia as well, and Farmington Hills and Livonia. As communities don't have staff, they rely heavily on their neighbors, and then their neighbors are in their community, and then the neighbors' neighbors, Plymouth Township, have to then assist as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, Chief, any other questions or comments on that? Chuck?
This is probably for you, Kurt. On the planning activity report, there's a grant for $100,000 that we applied for, and they said it was going to be awarded by July 1. Did we win it? It's for the Michigan International Technology Corridor.
Yeah, the grant was applied for by the MITC as it is now a separate governmental entity. And I don't think the state has gotten back with us yet. I would have heard something about it by now. So I don't know if that was wishful thinking on Laura Hawes' part, but she was very involved in that grant application, along with Gary Roberts and the planner from Northville Township. So I don't know. I think if it had been awarded, I would have found out about it in the last couple weeks. We'll follow up on that. Anything else?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item E, public comments and questions. As you know, this is not your only opportunity during the evening to comment on any matter of public interest. There will also be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Both opportunities are 3 minutes long. We also encourage comments and questions on individual agenda items. So at this time, does anybody have any general public comments or questions? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to item F1. This is the WTUA annual budget. Aaron Sprague is the Executive Director of WTUA. He's going to come up, and what mic is he using tonight, Jerry?
It's using the small one there. Make sure it's
The
turned
small one. Just keep it close to your mouth.
Hello? All right.
That's good.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm here tonight to present WTUA's 2019-2020 fiscal year budget, draft budget. It was reviewed by the WTUA Technical Committee on the 11th. It was reviewed by the WTUA Board in a study session yesterday. It will be presented to Canton and Northville Townships on August 13th and 15th, and it will be submitted to the WTUA Board for final approval on the 22nd of August. I don't have a whole lot to talk about tonight. I know that's rare for me, right? But this year's draft budget, is a 4.28% decrease. We've had a good run of decreases over the past several years, and it's not as big as a couple years ago, but it's still a significant decrease. As in years past, about 75% of our budget is wastewater treatment charges and electricity. Those are actually down a little bit this year, which is good. And beyond that, the majority of the costs are fairly even. I'd be
And that's
happy to-
pretty much a result of our pullout from Wayne County.
The wastewater treatment charges are significantly down due to our termination of the Wayne County utilization. In our first year, we saved in excess of what projected we would save significantly. Our second year isn't final yet, so I don't know those numbers, but it's still down.
And then even with this budget, we are starting to set money aside now for the capital improvement projects.
That's not reflected in this budget. That's a separate line item. But yes, we are budgeting, or we have a set aside for capital improvement projects that is adequate for the next 5 years. We'll reevaluate it in 5 years to determine whether or not that funding level is adequate.
And then what about bonds? I remember at the meeting yesterday, you mentioned something about WTUA bonds and the fact that we've really just got 1 or 2 left at this point.
Yes, WTUA historically had 2 bonds. The first of those was retired actually this year. So we're down to 1 bond. We only have 3 years left on that bond. And we don't have any plans for issuing debt in the future. Our hope is that the level of funding that we're receiving from the townships is adequate to prevent the need for future bonds.
Okay, great.
Speaking of bonds, remind me why Plymouth Township is the largest percentage of the 2012 bond.
The 2012 bond, as I recall, had to do with the YCOA expansion. And obviously, Canton Township was the largest portion of the funding for that bonding, but Canton Township funded significantly from cash reserves for that project and only bonded for a small portion of it.
What would you say are your two largest budget challenges for 2020?
Well,
Are none. It's easy.
I think we're doing great. You know, as I said, 75% of our costs are electric and wastewater treatment. We do what we can to control those. There isn't a whole lot we can do, but as Supervisor Heisey pointed out, our removal from the Wayne County system has helped that significantly. One of the primary driving forces in our budget reduction is a rate reduction from YCOA. So not only are we sending all of our flow to YCOA, our rate is going down in YCOA as well. So it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's great.
So have you
Win-win.
completed the expansion of the retention basin in Canton?
We have not completed that. Actually, yesterday at our board meeting, we approved the contract for that to initiate that project. So that project will be starting in the next week or two in the design phase. It is a design-build project, so it'll be fairly rapid. I do expect some of the construction, primarily controls, to be completed maybe even by the end of this year. But the bulk of the construction will likely go into early 2021.
And what will the expenditure be?
It's budgeted at $11 million. My target is around $9 million.
And that's a lot of brick and mortar, or a lot of concrete you're pouring, right?
It's a very complex project, which is part of why we're going with the design build. The bulk of the cost of the project is construction of storage, so concrete, potentially partially below ground, potentially partially above ground with brick and mortar as well. But there are a lot of other smaller aspects to it. We'll do a little bit of work at our Middle Rouge facility. We'll do a little bit of work at our Eccles Road facility. And we're also doing a complete overhaul of the hardware for our instrumentation and controls, which encompasses all of our various facilities.
What percent did your medical insurance, no one opted out, I noticed. What
No.
percent did your medical insurance go up?
It went down,
It went down.
yes.
You have 4 people on the plan?
We have 3 people on the
3
plan.
people on the plan.
3 very healthy people.
All right.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board?
Just a comment from my perspective. I'm on the finance committee for Watua, and it's, Aaron, I just want to say you folks continue to do a great job. I mean, with the budget and with the expenditures, it's, you know, you're looking at the short term in terms of how to save operational costs, but you're constantly looking at the longer term and the longer term. And it makes life for townships like us very easy to have predictable expenditures like that and know what we're going to be spending in the next year, 5 years, 10 years. So we certainly appreciate the effort of all 3 of you healthy people.
Touche.
Okay, anything else from the board? Anything else from the public? Questions, comments? Very good, then I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman?
I move the Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 2019-07-23-69, authorizing the 2019-20 Watua budget per the recommendations of the Watua Executive Director.
Motion's made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by treasurer Clinton. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here. Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you. Aaron, don't go away because
Thank you very
item
much.
F2 is the Rouge Valley Interceptor System final negotiated termination agreement. I know that Aaron is not an attorney, but he's worked extensively on this issue. We also have a very thorough letter from Chuck Barbieri, who is the attorney for Foster Swift, who represents Watua, which lays out the rationale behind the termination agreement. And then we also have a full copy of the termination agreement and the sharing agreement, which deals with the payments and the debt balance, which is an integral part of the document, which is basically a side document between Wayne County and Watua. So even though this is a legal matter really between Wayne County and Watua, as we are the member communities of Watua, the townships of Northville, Plymouth, and Canton, through their respective boards, must still approve this agreement. And Aaron, you just want to, does anybody have any questions on it, on the termination agreement?
I will have one.
Okay, go.
So go ahead, Aaron, with your pitch first.
I don't have a whole lot to say. We've talked about this several times over the past couple of years. We've been negotiating this termination agreement with the county for a couple of years now. The terms of the termination agreement very closely mirror the terms already approved by Plymouth Township Board for the swap and assignment agreement with the City of Plymouth and Canton Township, and also the swap agreement between Northville Township and Northville City. Those agreements were passed earlier this year in the case of the City of Plymouth, and late last year in the case of Northville Township. Fundamentally, the county maintained that WTUA had a share of the debt that had already been issued for projects that improved the system while we were still a part of that. While we didn't really agree necessarily with whether or not it was appropriate to pay that debt, the agreement we came to with the county was that we would be allowed to assign some of our capacity to other communities that were members to the Rouge Valley Interceptor System. So this agreement requires us to pay just over $1.3 million to the county as, for lack of a better term, an exit fee. It's a payment of debt that the county will have to continue to make. But we're actually receiving more than that from the City of Plymouth. So the net cost to WTUA and its member communities is zero.
So we're exiting the system and making Plymouth City pay for it, right? That sounds familiar. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Yes. In the swap zone, for example, the swap zone that we have, who takes care of the street sewers and the collectors in that area?
The sewers remain under the ownership and responsibility of the community that had that before this agreement.
The original owner?
Yes. So the City of Plymouth is still responsible for the sewers within the City of Plymouth. Plymouth Township is still responsibility for the sewers within Plymouth Township. The only thing that was traded really was the quantity of flow in those sewers. So the city is still responsible for maintaining those sewers. The city is still responsible for the character of flow emanating from the businesses or homes in the city, and the same is true for Plymouth Township.
So industrial pre-treatment issues that come from the City of Plymouth, for example, are still their responsibility to manage?
Yes.
All right. Next question is, who is responsible to make sure the $99,000 of initial payment is paid by the City of Plymouth on time? Is that you?
Yes. Actually, the $99,000 payment will be made by WTUA. We will be receiving $157,000 from City of Plymouth in early 2020. We will send on $95,000 of that 157, keeping the extra $60,000 or so to begin recouping the 99 that we're fronting right now. And the subsequent year, we'll recoup the remainder of the 99,000. And following that, we'll send the entire 157 that we get from the city to the county to retire that payment as quickly as possible.
So the 157 is a one-time lump sum, the city
No.
of Plymouth pays
The-
no more?
The city of Plymouth will pay us annually $157,000. We will pay the county annually about $95,000 or $157,000 if we're not recouping funds from short payment of the city of Plymouth or this initial $99,000 payment.
So the 2 million cubic feet option, or whatever it is, that they have to exercise by the end of this year, you think they're going to exercise that option?
I think there's a good chance. The issue really with that is the city met with MDEQ, or Eagle now, in the fall of last year to discuss what it would take to get out from under the administrative or the abatement order that the city is under. The DEQ at the time indicated that they needed to do a flow metering study and analysis of the flows to confirm that this additional capacity that they're purchasing would be adequate to remove the abatement order. The problem we had is that's the type of thing where you need to meter in the spring and spend several months at least analyzing that data and projecting what your flows will be. We didn't want to wait on the termination agreement or the swap agreement for that study to be completed. That was the source of the first right of refusal for 2 CFS. If I had to guess, they were pretty worried. I think they believe that the 11 CFS that they've already purchased is adequate. What they were really concerned about is that they'd finish the study and they'd find out, if we had gotten 11 and a half, we'd be okay, but we only got 11. So I think that they'll likely have preliminary results, and if it's getting close to the 11, I think they'll take the 2 CFS.
And the price is already agreed at what that 2 is worth?
Yes.
So no long, drawn-out
No.
negotiations?
Correct. The price is already set, and it will just impact their annual payment that will be due in January of 2020.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board or the public? Very good. I'm looking for a motion on item 2.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-07-23-70, authorizing the termination agreement with Wayne County relating to the township's withdrawal from North Huron Valley Rouge Valley Sewer Interceptor System, and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign on behalf of the township.
Motion's made by trustee Kermy. Is there a second? Second by trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Supervisor Heidi.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron, have a good night.
Thank you for closing this long path.
Speaking of paths, item F3 is the bid award for the Ball Diamond Pathway Project.
Thank you,
Dave
Mr.
Richmond,
Supervisor.
Township Engineer.
This request is for the installation of the pathway from the pavilion to ball field number 4, and then we'll eventually connect on to the existing path on the east side of ball 4. Currently, there is no ADA accessible route to ball field number 4 at the park, and this will provide the accessible route from the pavilion. A bid package was put together and advertised on Mitten. We had 5 bids received, and I included the bid tab with your work there. The low bidder, Merlot Construction Company, was the lowest bidder with a total bid of $40,495. Based on our review of experience provided and our work with them in the past, we find that Merlot Construction Company is qualified to perform the required construction. It is our recommendation that the project be awarded to the low bidder, Merlot Construction Company, for the Plymouth Township Park pathway to field number 4 in the amount of $40,495. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
I only see 3 bids tabulated here. Are there 2 other ones?
If you look down at the bottom, Mr. Kermy, you'll see 2 others that we just gave their,
Oh, other bids. Okay,
Yes.
those are like memos.
yes.
All right, wait.
2.5 times what we've already looked at, yeah.
Well, what projects did Merlot do for Plymouth Township previously?
They did the parking lot in the park, the large concrete parking lot up there. They worked on
okay.
that.
They love concrete.
Yes,
Biggest parking lot in the
they're
world.
very good with concrete. They do a very good job.
what percentage of this will be paid by the county and what percent by the township?
I believe this all is being paid by the county.
100%?
Yes.
It's part of our grant application for this year that we approved probably about 2 months ago and sent off to the county.
What do you expect to complete it?
As soon as we get approval, we're going to get the contract books out to them, and we hope to get started on this probably by September, or in September.
So complete by the end of September?
Completed by the end of September. They should only be out there a week at the most.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Comments, questions? Anyone in the public? I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman?
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-7-23-71 to authorize the award of the Township Park Path to Ball Field Number 4 to Merlot Construction Company in the amount of $40,495.
Motion's made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee
Dempsey.
Dempsey. Doggone it.
That's who he is.
I'm like
Jack
peripheral
Dempsey.
vision here, yeah. Okay, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All righty, thank you. Item F4 is the bid award for the Miller Park Pavilion project. With us tonight is our generous benefactor, Mr. Tim Doyle, who has granted us a very sizable gift of $125,000 for this project in memory of the late trustee Kay Arnold. And this will be a terrific addition to the Miller Family Park. This is not a very elaborate pavilion. It's basically, as Mr. Doyle requested, a pavilion where people can just rest, can have a picnic, and so it's not the kind of pavilion that we may have at some of our other park facilities. Dave Richmond, could you elaborate some more for us?
Thank you, Supervisor. Yeah, and to elaborate a little bit more is I would consider this a picnic shelter and not necessarily a picnic pavilion. But we worked with Mr. Doyle, and thank you for your generous donation, to come up with a plan for the picnic shelter. We worked through what kind of picnic shelter he would like to see and where to put it on the park. We placed this in such a manner so that the kids could still play ball at the park. We kept it out of the way so that we didn't interfere with that, but yet it makes it very accessible for people to get to. The pavilion, it will have a concrete base. It also has a sidewalk coming from the existing interior walks to get to it. We have a flagpole with lights associated and some landscaping around the flagpole. We will also be purchasing picnic tables and trash cans for the picnic shelter as well. So we put the bid package together. The bid was advertised on Mitten. We received 2 bids for this project. The low bidder, Soleil Building Company, it was the lowest responsible bidder. We've done work with them in the past. They have very good references. The low bid was $96,192. Based on our review and experience, Spalding Dedecker finds that Soleil Building Company is qualified to perform the construction, and it is our recommendation that the project be awarded to the low bidder, Soleil Building Company, for the Miller Park Picnic Shelter in the amount of $96,192.
Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Richmond?
I have only one. A burning bush shrub is $7,000.
That's not just one, that's, I think we had,
11, or no, number, quantity?
It says
Yeah.
quantity 1,
As a
so I
one,
didn't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
there's like 10, I think, or 11 on there.
11 for $7,300, burning bush?
Yeah, I'm surprised the hell
We
out of
may
me, too.
want to do something there ourselves and carve that out. That's a pretty bad value. In other words, to buy 11 burning bushes, that's, what is that? 7,300 divided by 11?
It was about $700 a bush
$700 a bush, yeah.
That's
installed.
outrageous. But my advice is, we'll get a nursery to do that later as a separate thing.
Well, we'd like to do it all at once, and we do not have the staff or the wherewithal to start installing our.
And it may be a
landscape.
full-grown
Well, no,
bush.
I mean,
And
you contract with a nursery to do it. You don't need to, I mean, it isn't a lot of engineering involved. I could do it if you want.
No, that's okay.
I'll call up a couple of nurseries, get a couple of bids. But anyway, that's my thought. What kind of roof is this, and what brand of prefab is it?
They haven't given us the exact prefab manufacturer yet. We still have to go through that with our shop drawing review. But if they went with the one that we had given them as an example, the name escapes me right now, but it was an asphalt shingled roof.
It is? Good.
Yes.
Wow.
You got to think about metal. It'll last 100 years.
Metal
Especially
roofs
in
have
an
gotten pretty
unheated-
expensive lately with,
Yeah, but it's in an unheated facility. And right now, it'll probably last, if you're lucky, 30 years, 25, maybe. But, all right.
More than that'll last.
Any thought about porous, anything you can make porous for the walkways, then still be ADA compliant?
well, we have such a small segment of walkway, it wouldn't necessarily be beneficial to go porous at that point in time.
Isn't that a way to learn, experiment with a small pilot?
Well, yeah, not necessarily, but we'd also have to take a look at what the soils are underneath. If it's
Soil is
clay,
sand,
if it's
I
clay
can assure you.
soils,
It's sand. I know it. I grew up there. I bet the benefactor knows it too.
and at this point in time, I don't know if it's worth the additional cost for us to put in the porous concrete.
Okay.
It's something that we can definitely look at, for future projects to
Eventually,
get
you
into
need
the
to come
porous.
up with some analysis or alternatives, because we're doing more and more paving,
Right.
and it's more and more hard surface, and forward-looking landscape designs are minimizing hard surface in other parts of the country
Right.
and the world. So we need to be forward-looking. So it's a great way to experiment, especially since you're running way under budget, and then maybe you'll be able to save more money. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know what
we're not
forests
we're not
need.
we're not way under budget because we still have to purchase the picnic tables and some of that as well. So
But they're not going to be $25,000 for picnic tables.
no, but we're still underneath the budget. We still have other things we have engineering costs, and we also have inspection costs as well for the project.
Inspection.
Yeah, inspecting the concrete being poured, inspecting the construction of
It's pretty simple.
it's very
Building.
simple.
Well, that's what they said at Township Park too, and had to redo the concrete there a couple times, I think, so. Anything else from the board? Anything from the public? Mr. Doyle, any comments or anything? You're all set? Just go ahead,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Well, I know Mr. Doyle has been working very closely with our staff here, and Dave Richmond, Sarah, Sue, myself, and you've been a great partner in this effort, so we look forward to taking it to the next step, and thank you very much.
We want to thank him very much.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
All righty then. I need a motion on this item.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move to adopt Resolution 2019-07-23-72, authorizing the award of the Miller Park Picnics Shelter to Soleil Building Company in the amount of $96,192.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Treasurer Clinton,
Yes.
Trustee Kermy,
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey,
Yes.
Trustee Supervisor Heisey,
Yes.
Trustee Heitman,
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
Very good.
Before we leave this, could I just
Yep.
inquire of Mr. Richmond? I'm not familiar with this issue of the plantings. We've approved this bid, but when you get to actually doing it, is there flexibility with the contractor if you were to look at this and say, well, instead of spending that much money for 11 of these shrubs, we'll
There's
spend
always
it-
some flexibility that we can talk to them about.
Yeah,
with
is
that.
that something that you could do?
Yes, I can approach them with that, see if there's something we can do.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much, Dave. Next up
Good job,
is supervisor and trustee comments. I do have a response already for Mr. Kermy on that bid or the grant for the MITC. I texted Laura Haw at home, and she says that the state has delayed and asked for more time to consider all applications, and they should have a decision by the end of summer. So there you go. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a very good grant to help. It would help to promote the MITC corridor. Otherwise, from me, we just want to let you know that there is no study session in the month of August, and there is no meeting on August 13th. So we will meet again on August 27th. Mark your calendars. That's all I've got. Gary Heitman?
One question, with the budget coming up, where are we in hiring a finance director?
Presently, we have interviewed a couple people, and we're still receiving applications, but we have talked to a couple of fairly well-qualified people that we're considering.
Ready to make a
Not
offer soon? Or
not at this time, but hopefully very soon.
do we have a deadline when we want to do that?
Well, we want to do it as soon as we can.
That's no good. What, September 1, August 15th? I mean, we're looking at next meeting having a budget, and, you know, it's a lot more work for you guys if we don't have this person in place.
Sure, it's,
Budget at next meeting?
No, we're not.
No,
September
We're not.
well.
We're not having a budget at the next meeting.
No, September 1 is
Yeah.
when,
it's my opinion that a good number of people who are qualified to apply for this are like on vacation right now. They worked very hard in these large accounting firms. They just got done doing budgets for cities and also work for townships in audits. And a lot of them are taking vacations right now. And I think they'll be looking at this, and I'm expecting to have some more quality people apply. So I would be hesitant to just jump at the first opportunity when there may be some other good people out there if we wait and just be a little bit more patient for a week or two.
yeah, okay. I just want to make sure the burden is not on the rest of your staff and you,
Thank you.
and when we're
It
saying-
is. The burden is on them.
Well-
We need to do it.
I mean, yeah, we know that. So, yeah, you're right. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Jerry?
Yes, just like to everyone to know that the city has paid up on all the issues that they owe us on.
That email,
Yeah, you're very welcome. And that's everything. That's,
2015, 14.
yes, and even 18 has been trued up and paid. And they've paid their monthly payments on time. And to this very last second, as I'm speaking, the words coming out of my mouth, they are up to date in payment.
Cindy Kushner worked very hard on getting that organized.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's why I asked the question about Watua.
Yeah.
Who's minding the store for that one.
Yeah, and also there was, our deputy clerk has a wonderful relationship with the finance people there, and she was always helpful in encouraging them to get things paid up.
It also helps when you don't have a perpetual adversarial relationship with the city. And,
Absolutely.
They're a lot more easy to work with when you're not accusing them of all sorts of bad things, so. Mark?
All set here.
Jack Dempsey?
Two or three things based on media reports, so I'm checking to see if this is fake news or not, but there were power outages in this region recently, and I noticed some comments, Mr. Supervisor, you might have made about that here in Plymouth Township. Is there something you could enlighten us on in terms of
Sure.
where things are with DTE here?
Well, I read a story, it just came out tonight from the Observer, and they focus on Lake Point and the power outages that occurred in that subdivision. And look, we've been working very closely with DTE for the last couple of years on tree trimming, tree removal. I mean, I've toured the areas that they've trimmed. You're familiar with, some of those were in your neighborhood. So DTE has been doing a very aggressive tree trimming effort, which I think resulted in fewer outages, less damage being done in Plymouth Township. If you compare us to Canton, Westland, Dearborn Heights, even the Grosse Points, certainly Northville, I think they had it much worse than we did. I know Grosse Point, one of the Grosse Points there, City Hall has been without power for a while. Northville had it a lot worse than us. So I believe that it could have been worse were it not for the extensive work that we've been doing. With respect to Lake Point, though, it is, I think the issue there is still twofold. One, it's an older neighborhood. You have exposed hanging power lines, and you have older trees. So there has been tree damage that are going to impact the power lines. But I also would like to continue investigating with DTE the power grid system, which I referred to in the article, which is shared by Northville and Plymouth. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the power station that services Lake Point, all or some of it is in Northville. And I'm not sure if DTE has been as aggressive as they should have been in that particular part of Northville. Now, that being said, I can tell you, I know Jerry and I walk frequently through Lake Point, meeting people, meeting residents, and we've received compliments over the last year from people who've said, you know, whatever you're doing, keep it up, because we're not getting the inexplicable blackout that happens on a nice sunny day, or the brownouts or the flickers that happened with more regularity in the past. I'm not saying they don't happen, but the frequency of those events has gone down quite a bit. This, bottom line is, it was the second worst storm in DTE history, they say. Granted, their coverage area is a lot larger than it was, and you've got more people on the grid than you may have had in the past. I didn't personally think the storm was all that severe around here, but if you look at places like Ann Arbor and some of the areas north of here, if you looked on that outage map, I have the DTE app, and I was following the outages throughout southeast Michigan during and after the storm. And really, I mean, there were places to the west and north of us that had it much, much worse. And that's probably due to tree damage more than anything else. But we continue to work with DTE on this. I do want to look at some of these grid issues, but I would say in this case, this was more of a tree storm situation.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're going to keep the pressure on DTE to make sure that they continue to do the right thing to improve their system. So that's very comforting. Then speaking of outages, I think I read that Northville Township's 911 system was out and we helped out. Is that true?
Yes, sir. The phone lines went down, and so the lines were transferred over to us. They eventually came over and dispatched from our center.
You mean they physically showed up here and dispatched?
Yeah.
The people or the phone calls?
The people.
Well, both.
Okay.
I mean, the calls were transferred to our station, and eventually the dispatchers came over and dispatched from here.
So you had to give them a spare workstation?
Yeah. And we've done this before. They're our backup. We're their backup.
And then I think their township hall was without power for a while, or Northville City Hall or Township Hall. One of the two was out, I think, for a little while. City, yeah.
Yeah, that's good news. And last but not least, on the media front, I gave the fire department a shout out for saving a swan recently. Did you save some ducks recently too?
Ducks? Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, we've saved multiple ducks from drains. You know, people call because ducklings fall into drains, and we go fish them out. And a lot of times people take pictures, so I think there's been 3 duck rescues in the last month. Only one of them made the papers.
I didn't notice that on the report, though.
Is that a call for service?
Yeah, it's just a call for service.
Did we charge them?
Mutual
Or did
aid.
they say, put it on the bill? I couldn't resist, sorry. You know, we got the best police and fire. Don't we have the best police and fire? These guys are awesome. Good job.
Great. Okay, Chuck.
All right, lots of questions.
Good.
For the township engineer, the sidewalk status. In the email, you said you were abandoning for this year the repair program, but you were handling some emergencies. Explain that, and then why would you expect the GAPS program, you're going to go forward with that, but the price is still very high? Why?
Both the repair and the gaps is what I was waiting to bid in November, December, when the prices are lower, both of those.
Both of them. Oh, I
Both,
misread it.
yeah, both of those. And then as far as the repairs that we have to make this year, I am talking to the contractor that was the low bid on the park to see what they might be able to do to help out with, I think we have 10 or so that had called and complained about broken concrete. And so I'm talking to them about seeing what they can do to see if they can be any better than the prices that we receive.
So you have about 10 flags,
Not 10 flags, 10 residences.
10 residents, so there
Yeah.
might be 1 or 2
So
flags.
there could be 2 or 3 flags at each place. It's where they had to, have to be lowered or broken, or they just have to be repaired.
Are you making it clear to them that they will pay to fix that?
Yes, we will.
And
Yes,
because
that's part of the sidewalk
If the
program.
price is outrageous, they may not want to pay that price. So they need to be in the
Right.
loop of communication.
Once we know what price for sure that we can use, then we're going to be getting with all these people and letting them know where we're at.
SAD engineering expense related to Dave also. Who is keeping track of that? I noticed we kicked off about $7,000 at Lake Point, because those need to be rolled up. If the projects go forward, we need to ensure that gets baked into the unit price. If it's canceled, we absorb it.
And that's,
So,
yeah,
I
that's,
see quite a few in here. There's a lot of exploration going on. Kurt, maybe you know what we're doing.
Yeah, we track it with Mr. Felrath, our outside engineers, which is OHM and Treasurer Clinton. We all do that simultaneously and keep track of where the money's
So the
come in and where
$7,000.
it's going.
Okay, the 7,000 is still the cap per project.
Unless we want to change it for some reason, but
No, I don't want to change
we,
it.
we haven't changed it for several years, I believe.
Okay. Transport contract negotiations. Kurt, you had indicated that you were considering a hybrid model. I don't know what a hybrid model is. So before we go down the road and get a definitive, because isn't this going to affect dispatch, labor contracts, whatever, if we're going to allocate a larger percentage than currently is happening with no contract?
Well, the email you're referring to is attorney-client privilege, so
Okay,
I really
it
don't
is.
want
All
to
right.
get into the details of
All right.
active contract negotiations with a prospective bidder. But I would describe a hybrid model as one where the township is handling a certain amount of runs and a private operator is handling a certain amount of runs.
Right, so an allocation, but don't we have to figure out that out? The board has to figure out that allocation.
I don't know if that's the board's responsibility. I believe it would be contained in a contract, or it would be a transport policy or a transport protocol would be established in a contract.
But the board hasn't decided on what that protocol should be.
It would be contained in the contract, which you would ultimately have the final
Right.
say over. So
That's when the contract comes, but aren't we going to discuss? Because the implications were that the police department needed to have an extra station. Maybe we're going to do it differently. Their employees wanted a pay raise. So
it's not accurate. That's not an accurate statement. We're going to have a study session on this
that's
item.
an accurate statement. I think that's what Chief Tinnerington said.
No, the employees have not asked for a pay raise. I think that was speculation on the chief's part, but your chief can answer that question for himself.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, I think I can clarify. There's no decision been made to have our dispatchers move to EMD, emergency medical dispatching. A decision hasn't been made on that, so there's no equipment to be purchased. There's no negotiations with our employees. If we, at some point, go to EMD, potentially there would be some discussion.
So I thought going to when we were going to go to 100% transport, you'd indicated.
That's not what we're doing, is my
Okay,
understanding.
so hybrid is something between the current number and 100%.
We do some runs, they do some runs, yeah, based
Right, so
on
that's what we have today. But,
based on patient safety, based on the situation at hand.
well, I think we should have some discussion on it before we get
Yeah.
to a contract phase.
Well, we're going to have a discussion, we're going to have a study session, I believe, on September 17th, and we'll probably set aside the whole night for that issue.
All right, okay. So the contract isn't going to be on the agenda for approval on that night?
No, it's a study
All right.
session.
Okay.
And as soon as I can get you a draft that that is 90% there, I'll be happy to send it off to you. As soon as we can get something from HVA, you're actually here tonight. You're always here. I'm not knocking you. But obviously, you got your marching orders. So as soon as we can get a response back from them, we'll make some changes. And as soon as it's ready to go out in draft form, we'll send it out.
All right.
Was that it?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Any comments or questions from the public? Susan Bondi.
Thank you. Susan Bondi, Lake Point. I have a couple of just comments, and I want to call your attention to. The Public Safety Committee made a couple of recommendations, key recommendations, and I just want to know whether any of you have noticed, the two recommendations I'm talking about, one had to do with a canine unit, okay? And we had a lot of background as to how those costs could be covered and so forth. But I wanted to make sure that you all saw that Canton just brought in 2 canines from, so obviously, other communities are thinking about this. And the other recommendation that they made was, that the committee made, had to do with a youth citizens academy, okay? Obviously, we could do anything with this. It could be 2 days, 3 days, it could be a week. But again, just recently, I've seen at least 2 communities, Canton is one, who actually put out an academy. And there's a couple of good things to get from this. Obviously, one of the things that the police officers that, communicated this to us was they were hoping that, looking to this to build positive relationships with the police, okay, and fire. But the other thing is that we know how desperate we are to find good candidates. And this is a way to encourage young people to look at a career in public safety. Okay, so those are some points. I just want to make sure that you're seeing some of these articles that other communities are doing these things. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that Plymouth Concerned Citizen is going to start up having meetings in August 21 at the library. This is basically, that meeting may be poorly attended, but I'd like to see it as a session at which we kind of brainstorm some topics. I'm hoping that Jerry and Sandy, possibly if they have some interest in, telling us what is going to happen, what are the changes. I think we've got quite a few elections coming up. So I'm looking for, possibly there. I would also, so that I'd like to have some input from them. So Plymouth Concerned Citizens, August 21. We have meetings scheduled all the way through November and then into 2002. So we've got time, and I have a hunch we're going to have quite a few elections. So, okay.
And that's at 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Okay, at the library.
7 to 8:45. We have to be out of there by then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe you know something I don't. Are we having an election for the school district?
No. They decided, they had a study session last night, and they went over various options, but they have decided to delay any action on an election for the future.
So no special election in
No.
November?
No, okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Very good. I need a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman,
record breaking, I move we adjourn at 7:52.
motion's made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second? Second by trustee Dempsey. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.